Yesterday we were learning in this Dvar Malchut, a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991. And it's a speech that talks about France and how we can see that the world is ready for Moshiach because France has been refined. France used to be the bastion, the foundation for atheism in the world. France used to be the power and example of how to get along in the world without God, or even more, that it's good to get along in the world without God. God is just like a ballast. What do they call it? It's sort of this big weight on of rocks or something you're just carrying around for absolutely no reason. And that's what France taught. And especially there was Napoleon. Napoleon, he sort of began the whole thing. He knocked down the kings. He separated the church from the state, and etc., so that there wouldn't be any mention of God. And of course, anybody who wanted to be religious could be, but ideally, you'd be like Napoleon, and you wouldn't have any belief in anything except for yourself. And the whole world agreed with Napoleon, and the first Rebbe of Chabad vehemently opposed Napoleon. And in the end, he won. And not only did he win, but France today is in many ways the opposite of what Napoleon envisioned. Napoleon had this vision of a world where there would be no God. It's like this, what is this Beatles song? Imagine. No God, no, and everybody's just on their own. You're just on your own, which is total chaos. No money, no anything. We saw how it worked with communism. No money, everybody just does what they want to. That's the whole, woke movement today. So you see this total chaos and total destruction. I mean, especially you see today that all these woke guys, they agree with the Palestinians who want to kill them. They want to kill just basically everybody. So you see the whole thing is just convoluting on itself. It's very sort of ugly to see. But but nevertheless, let's look at the good. The good is that the world is changing and that the world is ready for Moshiach. And that which we see all these terrible bad things in the world is the bad is just floating to the surface. Now it's being very, very clear who is good and who is evil. Right? It's very, very clear that the terrible things that the Hamas did. And if you heard even a little bit of what they did, it's just even to hear about it is enough to keep you awake in the night, that you can't go to sleep. That human beings could actually do these things that they did, with rape and murder and torture and just, and the happiness that they had doing it. And they filmed it, and there's absolutely no excuse for it. No excuse for it. And the world agrees with them. So we see that it seems that the world is descending. Says the Rebbe, it's not so. The fact of the matter is that the world is ascending, and all the bad is just coming clear. It's becoming clear. Right? All the people in the world that hated the Jews when the Nazis were killing them, and they were quiet. They didn't say anything, right? All England and all these places, they were all quiet. Now they're not quiet anymore. Now all the people who hate the Jews are coming out, and they're saying it revealed. So that the bad is coming to the surface, but the good is healing from inside. And that's the whole idea of what's going on in France. France is where you can see it. Let's see, where are we now? Where are we? The Ikar Shlemus, the main completion of this refinement of the world in a settled way and in a way that the identity of everyone actually changes. One second, am I recording? Yes. On until a way of hafatza that not only is Judaism just holding its own, it's surviving, but it's actually spreading out. Nasa b'dorenu, it's in our generation. Al Yadei, by means of Kavod Kudush Morichami, by means of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And here's a picture. Here we go. Picture of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. Maybe there's another picture over here. Could be. Fine. Not necessary. Here, this is a good picture. One second, I went to the wrong place. There we go. I share that in addition that he was in France many times, and he also spoke words of Hasidut over there, but he also sent shluchim emissaries from among the Hasidim that they lived there for many years in France, and they did their service learning Torah and spreading out Judaism. We talked about this yesterday. He sent also to Morocco to save the Jews over there from the French influence, the Alliance education. And also he sent also Hasidut, and he sent letters to people in France, to the Hasidim in France. And also there, Huchnu Kama Inyanim, the Defus, they prepared many things for printing. Like it says, Kama Pamim, like it said, Defus Lagabi Katav Yad. He brought to be printed things which were previously only handwritten by the Rebbes. And this, when they were printed, they reached Riboy Godel, many people, Yoter Shel Anashim, V'hu Nagish Yoter Alayam, that it was available to many people, the writings of the Rebbe, when it's printed, which is not the case Katav Yad, when they're only handwritten. Only certain people can read things that are printed, and not only that, how many copies can you print? Can you write out? Right, a very limited number. And in a printing press, let's say you have 500 Hasidim, and they're all writing down what it's written. Let's say every day they can finish 10. So you have 5,000 copies, let's say. And a printing press, they can print 5,000 copies in a couple of hours. The Rebbe took many writings, handwritten writings that were written in Hasidut, and he took them to France, had them printed out in France. That everyone can read it. In a special kasha, especially when something new is printed, not just printing things that were written, handwritten. It's especially dear mitorer, that arouses sakranut, curiosity in the nature of a person. A new thing comes out, in addition to many things in the Torah which were originated there in France, and afterwards they were brought to be printed. So what's the Rebbe saying? The Rebbe is saying France suddenly becomes a source of the Torah. And as unimportant as you might think the Torah is, or as unimportant as you might think that the Jewish people are, because from the millions of books in the world, the Torah is just one. Even though it's the most popular book, they say, in the world, but not the Torah in its original. But it's popular, good. But the fact is that in France, it certainly was not popular. And the Rebbe made it that it is. And not only that, but also commentaries on the Torah and commentaries on how the Torah affects our life. They have been printed over in France and brought to the market that it could be sold to the public. And in general, Paul Usham in France, there was a biru zachach, a purification and a refinement in a way of hislabshus b'holach mini Musa, by means of being in France and going according to the customs of France that did not interfere with doing Torah and commandments. It wasn't against the Torah, but speaking the language, etc. But and from the fear of God, in order the fall to bring about a birur, a refinement, ba'ofen pinimi, not just like a stranger, but from the inside, that it was acceptable that a French Jew could be a religious Jew. A French Jew could do Torah and commandments in a happy way, to actually believe in God. Dvar Asher Paratz, this totally broke through the supposed culture of France, and gave the power to break and transform France, the koch of Klippa of France, to be a holy place. Hagilui Bazeh, how was this brought to an actual revelation? By means of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And especially when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe came to America. The Chetzi Kadar Atachton, what's called to the lower bottom half of the world, the half where the Torah was not given. The Torah was given in the upper half, was called where Israel is, and Europe and those places. That's where the Torah, that's called the upper half of the world. And the lower half is America. Not goes without saying Australia, but in the area where the Torah was not given is called the bottom part of the world. The Yesod Sham, and the from America, the previous Rebbe founded over there in France, Yeshiva Tomchei Tamimim and other institutions. And he sent over their emissaries in order to dwell there and to build more institutions and to spread out Torah and Judaism in general and Chassidut especially. And like we can see clearly, and especially in the last years, the Rebbe is speaking in 1992, at the Hatzlacha, the tremendous success, Gedol of Maruba, the Kol Apulos and everything of spreading out Torah and Judaism and Chassidut, Mayanot, the well springs outward in France, the Oed Medinas and other countries, often in a way that continues and makes more and more light. Ad until often away, in addition to the fact that the Nasi Dorenu, that the leader of our generation, and there was the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, gave the power to draw holiness into the lowest part of the world. Only in a way that holiness is drawn down from this place, namely, what's the second place? Not directly in France, but from America to France, the place where the Rebbe was found. And this gave the power. Shebamakom said that in this place, Nasem Makom Umakor Shel Torah, this became the source of the Torah. France became the source of Torah. Al Yidei, by means of founding Yeshiva Tomchei Tamimim over there. Tomchei Tamimim are all the yeshivas of Chabad. Just like it was in Lubavitch in the beginning. Ke'ilu shezed davar atzmi, like it is a thing in itself. And you then, after that, in France, they don't have to have an influence from anywhere else. That France becomes like America. That's what the Tzemach Tzedek said to one of his Hasidim that wanted to go to Israel. He said, make here Israel. Make here Israel. Now, Lubavitch was in Belarus, whatever, in White Russia, in the Ukraine, wherever it was. What does it mean, make here Israel? Lubavitch is certainly not Israel. He says, but the point of the matter is what is Israel supposed to be? The place where God is revealed. The place where you feel that there's a creator and that the Torah is the purpose of creation, where you feel it. If you want to really go to the land of Israel, so first of all, you should make Israel where you are. And then you'll appreciate Israel when you go to Israel. The job of the Moshiach is to bring the Jewish people into actual physical land of Israel. But in order to do that, first of all, you have to make Israel where you are. And that's done by means of the teachings of Hasidut. And we see the example that this is possible and that it's not only possible, but it's actual is France. France was the ultimate opposite of Torah and commandments and God. And we see that there's a place where Torah and commandments of God are not only existing, but also spreading out. In addition to that, Madpisim, they also print over there in France. They had peace in the past, also words of Torah, revealed Torah, hidden Torah, and generally new ideas in Torah. How do you say new inspirations of Torah? There's a better word for that. Okay, in the new looks at the Torah. For some reason, the word skipped my mind. Zem Madgish, this stresses how that France has become a source of Torah for the whole entire world. That other people actually receive Torah that are printed in France. And they're able to learn these letters that make you wise. And by the way, people asked yesterday about what about the pogroms in France. So if you look up in Google, you look up expulsion from France, so you see that France probably had more expulsions than any other place. I mean, they were expelled in this year. I don't remember the number of the years, but they were expelled here and they were expelled there and they were expelled on 12 this and 11 this and 10 this, and they were expelled from this city and from that city. And then there's also decrees put on France. You have to remember in those days also, the church was very dominant and the church really hated the Jews. And for some reason, the Jews just refused to convert. They couldn't, the churches couldn't figure them out. So it's true that Rashi and those people, they were in France, but it was only brief times of respites of anti-Semitism, and then they had to move from here and move from there. Like I said before, Shapula Tasham Akshav, that what is done now there in France, they're revealed the Paul Shal Kochos, and because of the efforts that was put in to France by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. Hishkia Shama Beshanim Livneze, in the years preceding this. Asher Biyoto Nasi Ador, because he was the leader of the generation, and he was the Nasi is everything. And the Rebbe said many times that the previous Rebbe, he was the Moshiach. He's the Moshiach, and the Rebbe said, I'm just carrying out his orders. He's the Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. He's the one. Like I showed you the picture, right? He's really Rebbe. Now, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he sat in prison in Russia, and according to what the Rebbe says, that he was the force, our Rebbe, that he was the force that put the first crack in the Iron Curtain, and that caused the Iron Curtain to totally fall. It was in 1990s, 1991. It totally fell because of what the previous Rebbe did in 1927, that he sat in prison and he suffered there for, the time that he suffered, almost a month old. And that in that time, that broke the spirit of communism. And communism was basically the same thing as Napoleon. Basically, it was common. Communism means everybody's equal. There's brotherhood. There's fraternity. There's equality. Right? Everybody works for the good of the community of all mankind. It says that the first Rebbe, he broke the power of Napoleon. The previous Rebbe, he broke the power of communism. That's not what we're talking about here. But he also broke the power. He began to break the power, the atheistic certainty of France, to the point where France not only is Judaism surviving, but it also is spreading out Judaism. Spreading out Judaism for there. Asher Biyotim Nasi Ador. Because the previous Rebbe, he is the leader of our generation. The Nasi Akol, and the leader is everything. Notenu Akoach, he gives the power to every single person of his generation, which is me and you. Kadeh, in order, so let's go over there. In order, the fall to bring about a refinement in not just Russia or France, but the whole entire world. Also in the lowest of low places. I mean, we see that the previous Rebbe, that the fact that he broke the power of communism, that's what the Rebbe said, he broke the power of communism, even though it only became revealed 60 years later or whatever. But nevertheless, he broke that power of communism. And now we see that in communist Russia, that religion is flourishing. Before it was forbidden religion. And Judaism is also flourishing, Lahavdil. Right? Religion in general is that you believe that there's God, at least you're in the right direction. And Judaism is also flourishing over there in Russia. There's the Chabad houses in Russia are, bringing Jews out of the darkness. The Jews there, they don't even know they're Jews. Ad Lof, until a place that in this place is revealed the essence itself. In these places, the essence of Judaism is revealed in France. In many ways, France was worse than communist Russia. Communist Russia, at least they sort of kept to themselves, even though communism spread out all over the place. But the idea in France was the idea he actually conquered the world. He actually went out and physically went and conquered, not just sent his commandos or whatever it is to start revolutions. Napoleon actually conquered these places, huge wars. I don't know how many people were killed. Millions for sure. In his goal to actually physically take over the world and spread atheism. And he lost. And who did he lose to? To Chabad. And now to the point where we see that actually in France, that this is the example of Moshiach, that not only does the world not oppose God, but it also starts to reveal God. The ideas of Torah and the commandments are coming from France now. The Yeshlom, we can say the Dvar Zed, that this thing, especially these two topics we're talking about, namely refining the lower world in a way that the world remains a lower world, but it doesn't have an effect on us. The world doesn't dominate us. But on the other hand, maybe we can even say we dominate the world, but nevertheless, the world still remains a world. And the other one is revealing the essence in the physical world. The physical world itself starts to announce the creator. It becomes itself a source. This is hinted at also in the word Tsarfat. The word Tsarfat, France is Tsarfat. The word Tsarfat. Remember, the Rebbe took this from this prophecy of Ovadia that we read about last week in Shabbat, that even France will become refined. Himeleshen Tziruf. Tsarfat is from the language of Tziruf, refinement. Ze mevate et ha'inyan shel Tziruf. This is the idea of Tziruf, means to be refined, ubiror, and to be clarified, v'zichuch, and another word for refined, purified. Ukafish, and like it says, regarding to the future generation. What does it say? In the future redemption, I'm sorry. What does it say? Yizboru, v'yislabnu, v'yitzarfu rabim. This is in Daniel, right? Daniel, right in the end of Daniel, here 45 of Daniel, right? In chapter Yud based in Daniel. From this, the Rebbe also learned that now that all these bad things, terrible things are happening in the world, Rabin, that all the bad things that are happening in the world is because the bad is coming to the surface. Bad is coming to the surface. I just saw somebody sent me a video that in the universities in America, Columbia, Harvard, these places, it's okay to say kill all the Jews. It's all right. It's all right to do. First, they were just talking about the Israelis. Then they started saying that clean out Israel. Clean out Israel, which means, no, get rid of the Jews. And now they're just saying kill all the Jews. And there's a lot of Jews that are saying it also. It's pretty crazy. The whole thing is crazy. Anyway, so they had a hearing in the Senate, and they got the presidents of these universities, and they said, in your universities, is it okay to say that all the Jews should be killed? What do you say? And they asked of Harvard, I think, and of, Columbia, something. Anyway, they said, and say yes or no. And they would not say no. They wouldn't say it's forbidden. They wouldn't say it's forbidden. Is it permissible to say these things? And they wouldn't say no. They wouldn't say it's forbidden. If it brings to actual action, but you can say, yeah, stand up in these places and say, kill all the, X, fill it in, whatever you want, all the Indians, all the blacks, all the Mexicans, you can't say a thing like that. But the Jews is okay. Why is it? Why all of a sudden the Jews is okay? What's the difference between the Jews and everybody else? So the answer is very clear. The Jews are God's people. And people don't like God. People don't like to be told what to do. And people want to feel autonomous. It says that it'll be purified. Because the fact of the matter is, these people have a good point. Who wants to be told what to do? That's if God doesn't exist. But if God does exist, and he really does, then it's to everybody's benefit to act according to the manufacturer's instructions, right? Even though it might be against human nature. So that's what it means. In the future, it says Yizbor will be purified and clarified and what is it? And refined many, the multitudes. Shagula, that the future redemption, this comes by means of shlemas abirur, by means of separating and refining the whole entire world, separating the bad from the good. Although Sif, and to add al derech tzachos, in a way of, like, how do you say, tzachos, I guess, is like humorous, but not humorous in a way of imaginary. As Tsarfat, like in a how do you say, in a light way, not heavy. Tzachos baremas. Tsarfat, if you take the number, the value is the numerical value of 770. 770. Now, 770 happens to be the address of the Chabad headquarters, and the previous Rebbe, he chose that place, 770 Eastern Parkway. So 770, that's the address. Just happens to be the address, just, no intention, they didn't change it or something like that. In Khan in Israel, they built a replica of the headquarters of the Rebbe here, and they put on the outside 770. It's not 770. There's no. It's just on a hill alone. There's no 771 or 772. Right? They just put 7. But in America, it's not that way. In America, there's the next door neighbor is 772 or whatever it is, 774. It's a series of numbers, right? It's a series of numbers that goes, from below to above. And 770 happens to be but it ends up that it's not so happenstance as we think. Tzarfat, France, the word Tzarfat is the numerical value of 770. Here, Tzaddik is 90, Reish is 200, we have 290, Pei is 80, that's 370, and Tov is 400, that's 770. The number 770 itself shows on a certain type of a magical number, how it's the completion of the number. Where is it? The completion. Here we go. There we go. It's the completion of the number 7. How we see 7? We have 10 times 7 and 100 times 7. 100 times 7 is 700, and 10 times 7 is 70. Shleimus HaMispar, this is the completion and the wholesomeness, filling up the number 7. How each one unit is included from 10, that's 70, and how each unit is included from 100, 700. Shneim also, both of them together, 770. Yesh Lomar, we can say that this number hints at, now what's the big deal about number 7? 7 is the number that God created the world. He created the world in 7 days. He could have created the world in one instant. But 7 is a special number, and it corresponds to what's called the 7 emotions of God, and correspondingly to the 7 emotions inside of every human being. We're made in God's image. That's another meaning of God's image. This hints at that when is refined these countries, also there's the 70 nations of the world. When there's refined the 70, Shashivim Umos Olam, when there's refined these 70, there is completed the refinement of all of the world that was created in 7 days and all of its details. So there's 70 nations. I guess these are like the core nations in the world, and the world was created in 7 days. So that's the idea of time and of soul and of place. That refines all of the details of the world. And even more, 770, this is a number of the house, the address of this, of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. That's 770 Eastern Park. That's the headquarters of Chabad. Asher Bo Chai, that's where the previous Rebbe lived. He used to live on the 2nd floor. The Avad, and did the service in the last 10 years, B'chayim, and when he was in this physical world. Ba'artzot Abrit in America. Chetzi Kedar Atachton, which is the lower half of hemisphere of the world, opposite of where the Torah was given. So the last 10 years, the first 10 years that the previous Rebbe was Rebbe, that was in Russia, and the second 10 years that was in Poland, and the third 10 years, altogether he was Rebbe for 30 years, is in America. Yesh Lomar, we can say, Shazem Ramas, this hints at Inyan, the whole idea of the second thing we said before, in Birur, in refining the world, Nosaf, in addition to refining the physical world. What do we say? There was two aspects of refining the world. Number one is that the world we control is controlled by holiness, and the other one that the world itself becomes holy. And this is talking about the world itself becomes a holy place. Not just that the lower worlds become ruled by the upper worlds, right? That the world goes according to conscience and values, godly values, but even more, that the world becomes one with the essence. That's what it means that the world becomes 770. The house itself became 770. This place, this building, Habayat, the house, which was a normal house, not only was it the house where the Rebbe lived, but the house itself became a source of holiness, like France did. This is the house of the Rebbe, of the leader of the generation. Makoro, he's the source of spreading out the well springs out in the time to all the four corners of the world. Now, we have to a little bit appreciate what's going on over here. Like we said before, the tremendous importance of Judaism. I just want to stress, I mean, I've said this before, but I want to say it again. I was not always religious. I'm a Jew, but I wasn't religious. And I was in university. I graduated university, and I was a rock and roll singer, if you want to call it. And I sang in different bars, and I had a job in the daytime driving this truck. And I had absolutely zero connection with anything Jewish, except that I knew I was Jewish, but my friends weren't Jewish, and maybe one by accident or something. And it meant absolutely nothing. In fact, being Jewish meant less than perhaps anything in the world. Perhaps less than anything in the world. Other people, they had their religions, whatever, so they went to church, they did something, right? I never did the synagogue. I went for my bar mitzvah. I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't care what was going on. I had no care whatsoever, and there were no particular rituals or anything that I did. Absolutely no connection whatsoever. Like I say, perhaps the most meaningless thing in the world to me was Judaism. Even though I knew I was a Jew, I knew there was such a thing. But it didn't mean anything. And then I went to a lecture, and I don't want to go into details. And the professor, it was a well-known professor, and he said an anti-Semitic statement. He said the only thing bad in the world are the Jews, the theistic Jews, whatever he said. And suddenly I thought, what in the world is he talking about Jews for? I thought Jews, I don't even know what it is. And he's saying that they're bad. Even if you just mention them, Jews mention them in like the same breath as the people from who knows, from Ireland or something like that. Jews, that would have amazed me because it was so unimportant. Suddenly, all of a sudden, it was like an issue. That was the issue by him. He was saying that's the only thing that's bad in the world is the Jews. And so I suddenly realized, what is this Judaism? And this professor was very, very well known, and he was very, very influential, at least at the time. He is, that's all he can talk about is the Jews. And suddenly I realized maybe Jews are really important. Maybe there's something into this. Maybe there's something, maybe it's the most important thing in the world. Maybe it is. Maybe this professor is totally wrong, and he thinks it's the worst thing in the world because it's the most important thing in the world, and it's opposite what he thinks. Anyway, so that started the whole ball rolling. Until I saw the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I said, that's it. So true, it's very misunderstood, but the idea is to make Judaism, yes, understood, and even by the Jews, it's misunderstood. To make Judaism, yes, understood, that our purpose is to reveal the Creator in the creation. And not just the whole world should know that there's a Creator, and that they should be in awe of the Creator, or they should take the Creator into mind, or they should pay more attention to their conscience, etc. No, but the world itself should be a showcase for the Creator. Everybody should show, wow, God is good. Look, he created people like this. He created good things. We can add on, She'inyan said that this is found also in Holach B'nai Musa. This whole idea of when a Jew, a religious Jew, is in a country, he should go according to the customs of the country. What does it mean, go according to the customs of the country? It means, of course, if they in any way interfere with Torah and the commandments, not to do that. But even more, you should utilize the customs of the country, and don't fool yourself. To serve Menatzlim, that we use the Tchunot Makom, the special uniqueness, the character of the place where you are, Lamaliusa, for good. Legalot, to reveal the essence of this place. Ba'ofen shemurgash shamakom nasa atzmai, that it becomes everything in the world is there because God wants it to be there, and everything in the world is different from everything else. If for no other reason that everything is in a different place than everything else. Nothing's at a two place. But the fact is even human being is different from every other human being in some way. And the reason it's that way is because God made it that way. Now you can either use it, this fact that you're different from everyone else, as a proof that God does not exist. Because if God exists, everybody would be the same, right? Say, wrong. God wants there to be unity in from difference. E pluribus unum, from many comes one. So to say, and it's a true saying. It's true. An orchestra that has a lot of pieces and they all instruments, they all play together. It's more beautiful than just one person playing or four people playing. It's more beautiful, more impressive. This is we're talking about the whole world with all of its details. That each one realizes that I'm being created by God because God wants me to use my uniqueness in order to make the world a better place, in order to connect to my Creator. But call any nitor, and in a big way, we're talking about, in this case, France, which was the opposite of godliness, suddenly it became an independent thing in all of matters in Torah and the commandments, that it became its source of Torah and commandments. Something like the advantage of a Yesh and Nivra, the creations, they feel that they are independent, mitziuto me'atzmuto, mikiven shemakoro me'atzmuto, that every independent creation feels that it's being created uniquely by God, because the source of everything comes from God's essence. It comes from God's essence. The God, he comes from himself. Like I said before, every human being feels that they're God. God made us in his image. What does it mean, God's image? Just like nothing is before God. So everybody feels the same thing. Nothing is before me. I was just created, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago. Okay, that's maybe a little question, but it doesn't make any difference. My parents existed to give birth to me. That's why I'm the height of all creation. It says that when God said in the 10 Commandments, honor your mother and father, it turned the whole world over. It turned the whole world over, and that people usually think my parents exist because of me. I am the ultimate. I'm the peak. That's why nowadays people don't want to have children. They do figure eights not to have children. So they can feel I'm the boss. I'm the reason that everything was created. Everything leads up to me. I'm the last chapter in that chapter. So people feel just like God. And with this, that's the feeling of France. I'm God. And to take that feeling and to realize that this feeling is a gift from me, from God, to use it to serve the Creator. Like we talked about yesterday, the thief, before he steals, he prays to God for success. Why? Because God made him a thief. But don't you know that God made you a thief so that you'll resist this urge to steal? And this is a tremendous novelty that a person doesn't do what's natural. This is a tremendous novelty. It gives God pleasure. And eventually that person, he gets pleasure out of helping people instead of stealing from people. We can say he gets a pleasure from being honest. We can say that one depends on the other, that our egotism, that we feel that we're God, this is what enables us to really give God pleasure and reveal God in the world. Kadeli Pol, in order to refine this world, the lowest part of the world, completely refine the world, Zukukim, you have to have power from God's essence. Mitzad bechinas giluyim, from the revealed powers, yesh chiluk, there's a difference between up and down. It could be that godliness is drawn from a place which is godly into only places that are prepared, which is not the case from the essence of God, which is above, up and down. Then it's possible to reveal and to refine even the lowest places in the world, even places that are not vessels for godliness. And even more, lahamshich sham, to draw down, they're the essence itself. Cain also, that's one thing it says that the Jews sinned with the golden calf. The Rebbe has a speech about this. So everything that happens, it happens because God somehow or other wants it to happen. Nothing happens outside of God. But serving the golden calf is against the first and the second commandments in the 10 commandments. Idolatry is forbidden. So how could it be that God wanted them to sin? Of course he didn't want them. God got mad. He wanted to wipe them all out. He says, yes, it's true. But if you look at the whole entire picture, what came out of it, that the Jewish people repented. They did tshuva, Moses prayed for them and revealed the 13 attributes of mercy. That's a new thing. In some ways, it's above the Torah. The Torah has all these laws. They went against the Torah. That's it. They went against God's will. God's will is infinite. It's infinite bad. They're finished. It says, yeah, but there's what's called tshuva, return. And when a Jew returns to the Creator, that's a new thing, a new power in the world, higher than the Torah. Before that, the Torah was the highest thing in the world. Nothing was above the Torah. That was God's will and wisdom. Suddenly they realized that there's something even deeper than that. The essence of what a Jew is. And that can be revealed. I'm sorry, God, I didn't mean it. That's what we talked about, guilt. A healthy guilt. I made a mistake. I admit I made a mistake. I'm going to change. And from this lower feeling, and in an end, I mean, if you want to call that the original sin, that's the original sin, that God made us feel that we are God. And everyone feels it. But that's not our essence. Don't think that is our essence. It's not. Our essence is godliness. That we're creations of God, and God also created this desire to go against Him. So only by means of this essence that we have can we reveal God's essence in the world, this idea of tshuva and returning to the Creator, a new power. And now let's do the Yom Yom. Don't know how much time that took. I sort of lost track of time. 1 second.